When you're getting ready to do an audition for an on-camera piece or a voiceover piece, we all tend to think about how we're going to say things, how loud we're going to be, how soft we're going to be, what character we're going to use, what the positive explosion of sound is going to be out of us to help build our audition in a way that makes people want to notice it and consider us. And we often forget what a terrific tool silence can be. Well, we're going to take a look at that in this episode of the VO Heroes podcast. I was reading an article, I think it was in Forbes magazine, and they quoted Leonardo da Vinci as saying, "Nothing strengthens authority as much as silence." And when you think about all of the blustery politicians and leaders and influencers on social media and celebrities that scream all the time that, they're saying, look at me, with all the stuff that they say and how loud they are, you wonder why they don't take advantage of that notion of doing something that is unexpected, that notion of letting something land and taking advantage by using silence. There are some misconceptions about silence. We spend so much time on the character development and what we're going to say and how we're going to say it. We sometimes forget about silence because one of the first misconceptions is we think that's weak. If we're quiet or if we use silence, well, then somehow we're not as strong as we need to be. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, silence is one of the most powerful choices that we make. When it's used effectively, when you say something and then just let it be, when you let it land, when you let it see the sunlight and are confident enough to just let that be what you're saying, it is one of the most powerful tools we have. It's anything but weak. We also sometimes tend to think that by being silent or adding silence or using silence effectively, that it signals that we're uncertain about something. We haven't made our mind up about something. We don't have enough knowledge about something, or we're unsure. And silence actually does the opposite. It increases other people's perceptions about how confident we are about what we've just said. It strengthens what precedes it. Now, it's not in every case that this is the notion that I want you to take away from this. There are some times when the character or the audition requires that you do so in a way that fills the room with sound. But remember that silence is also one of your choices. In the world of graphics, there's a notion of what's called negative space or white space. We've all seen graphics that don't look quite right because they're very busy. They don't have any space for the eye to rest and to see contrast. And it's the same thing in terms of audio with silence. And in fact, the third misconception about this, that it's a vacuum that needs to be filled, man, if we're not filling that MP3 that we send off to the voice casting director or engineer with something, then we're wasting their time. Or when we're doing an on-camera audition, if we're in the middle of an emotional scene and we don't take the time that the character would have needed to take to process what's going on, if we don't do that, that somehow we're wasting the time of the viewer. And again, that's not the truth. In fact, here's a dirty little secret. If you use silence effectively, if you use it appropriately where it needs to be used and consider it as an option, and you just say something, make a statement and let it land. I used to love you, but I don't anymore. Now, some people would want to fill that in with, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you sad, I'm sorry, but just letting it land. People who are watching your performance or listening to your performance, they'll notice the silence and they'll stop what they're doing and lean forward. If anything, it will increase their attention. And I say this because I hear a lot of people rushing to fill that vacuum, rushing to fill that void, so that they maintain the attention of the listener or the viewer. And in many cases, it's just not necessary. The judicious use of silence is one of the most powerful tools you can ever use. Instead of weakening your statement with additional, all of these little stips and stutters and just to maintain that connection between what you've said and what you're going to say. To have the confidence to let things land and let them be is one of the best strategies, tactics that you can develop to add to your vocal toolkit when you're acting, whether you're on camera or whether you're on mic. I'm wondering if this is something that stresses you out, that makes you frightened. I don't know if I want to listen to this thing that David's talking about, this silence thing. I want to get my audition out. I want to get my stuff out. I want to get it out. I want to get it done. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know what your approach is to the pacing and the positive versus negative content in your work, whether it's on camera or whether it's on mic. Let me know in the comments below. If you're not watching this or listening to it over at VOHeroes.com, that's where I'd like to have the conversation, because everybody's so nice. Everybody's so lovely there. So VOHeroes.com. However you're hearing or watching this podcast, I really appreciate it. And I hope that silence makes a difference in your next audition and the auditions after that, or in everyday life when you're just communicating with people. I'm David H. Lawrence the 17th. I thank you so much for watching and for listening. And I will see you in the next episode of the VO Heroes podcast.